Good afternoon, and welcome to the annual Service Convocation and recognition of the 2019 Berea College Service Award recipient. I'm Ashley Cochran, and I'm the director of the Center for Excellence in Learning Through Service, or CELTS. Thanks. I'd like to begin today's convocation by drawing your attention to the back of your program. Each year, Berea College recognizes students through endowed service awards. The students listed on the back of your program are being recognized this year for particularly outstanding service in several different areas. Would all of the Student Service Award recipients who are here today please stand so that we can recognize you? As you all know, an ethos of service runs through the great commitments of Berea College and has been an essential part of our college since its founding. Berea College students arrive here every year already with an awareness and analysis of the pressing social issues that are facing our communities. And Berea College students live here with a desire to be part of addressing those issues, a desire to work hard toward building justice, a desire to creatively cultivate thriving communities. And many of you, as students, make service an integral part of your daily lives. These expressions of service take many forms: direct service to meet immediate needs, education that empowers others to take action, and advocacy and policy work that calls for structural changes to address injustice and inequity. If this work interests you, then I encourage you to come see us in CELTS. We would love to help you explore ways that you can serve in our community, or you can register for a service learning course, or discover some of the many community outreach programs that are part of Berea College. You can become involved in this community-engaged work from your very first semester here at Berea College, and we would love to help you find a way to do that. Today, we honor a person who's made service an integral part of her life by presenting her with the Berea College Service Award. Established in 1979, this award is designed to give to individuals who provided outstanding service to our society in realizing the ideals of Berea's great commitments. Recipients of the Berea College Service Award are individuals who in their daily lives have offered service. To become a Berea College Service Award recipient, first, an individual is nominated by someone who recognizes their work and has found it meaningful. The nominees are then presented to the general faculty of Berea College by the awards committee, and the general faculty members vote to recognize the person with the award. It's now my honor to present President Lyle Rulofs to recognize this year's Berea College Service Award recipient.
Good afternoon. I'm pleased to recognize our 2019 Berea College Service Award recipient. Gladys, will you please join me? Gladys Washington's colleagues who nominated her for this award paint a picture of a person with a deep love for people and for community. Someone who has spent her life working for social justice, and someone who is a stalwart advocate for the development of leaders of color and the advancement of women in the nonprofit and philanthropic fields. Gladys serves as Deputy Director for the Mary Reynolds Babcock Foundation, a family foundation with a mission of helping to move people and places out of poverty in 11 southern states. The foundation seeks to support organizations and networks pursuing solutions to the root causes of poverty. A pioneer in her field, Washington was one of the first Black women to assume a leadership position in Southern philanthropy. She has worked with the Babcock Foundation for 20 years and previously was a program officer for the Coastal Community Foundation in Charleston, South Carolina. Gladys's colleagues have shared that the way she does her work, with warmth, humor, and insight, stands out as much as the work that she does. Her colleagues have shared that Gladys models how to honor community and forge deep, trusting relationships, how to enter spaces with humility, how to show up as one's true self, and how to convey sincere interest in and care for individuals, their lives, and their families. In 2015, Gladys was named James A. Johnson Lecturer by the Association of Black Foundation Executives, that organization's highest honor. She is a former chairwoman of the ABFE's Board of Directors and now serves on the board of State Voices, a national civic engagement organization. Her colleagues also tell us that Gladys deeply values her own family roots and connections to community. For example, her family goes back 7 generations on St. Croix in the American Virgin Islands. Gladys is deeply proud of her Crucian roots and is helping to raise money and support for hurricane relief efforts in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Gladys, this award is given to individuals who have provided outstanding service to our society in achieving the ideals of Berea's great commitments. Today, we celebrate your career and life of service, marked by your work to empower individuals and communities and to work for social justice. I am pleased to present you with the 2019 Berea College Service Award. Congratulations. Now Ben will introduce our speaker.
Wow, thanks everyone. My name is Ben Kreisen. I am the student manager of the Carter G. Woodson Center for Interracial Education, a Bonner Scholar, and a senior business major with a concentration in accounting. 40 more days, but you know, who's counting? All right, so by now we all know the drill. Takeout, cell phones, laptops, smartwatches, or anything that will embarrass you and keep you from getting combo credit. I'm gonna turn it off, so I hope you will follow my example. It's gone, okay. All right, we good? All right. All right, so I am so honored to have the privilege to introduce today's speaker, Ms. Gladys Washington. Ms. Washington's work in the Babcock Foundation and Coastal Community Foundation prior to that is immense in its depth and breadth. However, at the heart of Ms. Washington's work throughout the years lays a clear theme: investing in lives of great promise. This theme is quite similar to Berea College's own theme, and while Berea College fulfills this through the education and employment opportunities it provides us, its students, Ms. Washington and her team at the Babcock Foundation do so through the grants that they provide, the programs and communities that they invest in. So, without further ado, please join me in giving a big, warm Berea welcome to Ms. Washington.
Good afternoon. Y'all can do better than that. Can't y'all do better than that? Good afternoon. Oh, that's much better, because they told me this Berea crowd was rowdy. And I want y'all to prove that, all right, over the next 20 minutes or so. Can we do that? Promise? All right. I'd like to thank Dr. Rulos for his kind sort of introduction of me and young Ben, who I met yesterday. He's a great young man. I'd like to thank Dean Chadberry, who has become a friend of mine, and I appreciate his nomination of me to not only receive this award, but for believing that I have something of value to say that has been informed by history and present realities. I am grateful. Thank you, Chad. Thank you, Berea. It is an honor to be here at this institution with its values and the promises of no tuition and a world-class education. Give yourselves a hand. Thank you, students, for all of your service to this community and beyond. You will carry this Berea legacy with you for the rest of your lives. Thank you. I also thank and honor my ancestors who stand beside me, for I am their child. Dr. Ruloff's and Ben's introductions told you a little bit about who I am. But to truly understand who I am, I think it would be helpful to understand my people and my places. I was born in 1954. I know y'all can't believe that because I look pretty good, huh? But I was born in 1954 in Ocala, Florida, to Johnny May and Clarence Krieger, two people who were loving but strict, service-minded but tough. My mother was born near plantations between Bogart and Athens, Georgia. She left the South at 16 years old and joined the 6 million other black people in the migration northward and ran numbers on the side in Harlem. Y'all know what running numbers is? Huh? Yes? No? You don't know what that is? It's the community's answer to gambling. It's illegal gambling. All right, that's what it is. And that's how she made money. I was scared of her. She was something. But she married my father, a handsome amputee from St. Croix, the United States Virgin Islands. They moved to the segregated South. She, again, he had never lived there. My mother was fierce and declared that she would never work for a white person again, and became an agent for black-owned Atlanta Life Insurance Company. My disabled father was a volunteer with black veterans organizations and other charities in the community, and he refused to allow me to drink from a colored-only fountain and enter through any back door. My parents were supernovas. They burned brightly and fiercely. But like supernovas, their dazzling brilliance foretold a premature demise. The death of a star sends shockwaves into the universe. The simultaneous death of these two stars sent shockwaves through my family and our community. I was 9 years old when my two younger sisters and I were orphaned. In November of 1963, the same month President Kennedy was assassinated. Everything went dark and came crashing down. But you see, my sisters and I were forged out of that same spectacular stardust as Johnny May and Clarence. And the crushing, searing loss only made us stronger and brighter. The death of a star emits shock waves, but it can also trigger the formation of new stars. And some astronomers posit the Star of Bethlehem, which led the Magi to the Christ child, was a supernova in the Andromeda galaxy. Now, y'all know I ain't saying I'm the second coming. Y'all know that, right? But I am suggesting that beauty, wonder, hope, guidance, and redemption can emerge from tragedy and loss, even as a blinding darkness closes in. Neither one of those ugly little girls are me, when you'll see them in a few minutes. When my parents left this mortal coil, a constellation of caregivers encircled those three little girls, chiefly our grandmothers. My mother's mother in Ocala and my father's mother in St. Croix. My family was grieving and didn't have much money. But my grandmothers made sure our clothes were clean and pressed and our shoes were shined. They taught us the importance of presenting our very best selves to the world. My Southern grandmother always told me I had many strikes against me. I was poor, black, and female, which meant I had to, in every circumstance, show up shining. Growing up in segregation, the term role model never entered my vocabulary because all the successful teachers, doctors, lawyers, and shopkeepers I encountered were black. That was normal. Segregation was far from idyllic, but it did teach me about loving myself and my community because we supported and cared for each other. The great Nina Simone wrote an anthem about black pride. To quote, she said, "Make black children all over the world feel good about themselves forever." When segregation ended and we could shop wherever we liked, hire white people for services, we stopped going to our black shops and calling our black plumbers because we seemed to and were taught to believe that white was better. And then all it took was the codified systems of discrimination to kick into high gear that tore at the economic, social, and cultural fabric of black communities. My Ocala grandmother made it through only the sixth grade, but she understood that education was the key to our success. She said, "I don't care what you have to do, but you will not be a maid like me. You ain't cooking for no white people. So you better get to your schoolwork and play that piano." As a result, I never learned how to cook a thing. Isn't that a terrible thing? She just refused to teach me, for me, anyway. But my segregated educational experience taught me many things about the resilience and the hope of black people in that system. My classmates and I had to learn from outdated books with the names of 5 or 6 white kids written inside the covers. While we were under segregation, we were under-resourced, but we were not under-educated. If our teachers had to take 10 books and cobble them together, that's what they would do. They also taught us about ourselves and the history that was not given to us in those raggedy-ass school books. They used what we had to make what we needed, to make a way out of no way. One such teacher was Juanita Perry Cunningham. I can't talk about her, talk up here, except talk about her for a few minutes, who taught me English for 3 years. Mrs. Cunningham spent 33 years in Ocala schools, first as a teacher, then as an administrator. She was also my mother's best friend. and we shared the grief of her passing. She understood that, but would never, ever let me feel sorry for myself and push me to become an avid reader of Black writers, including my fellow Floridian Zora Neale Hurston, Frantz Fanon, James Baldwin, and the poetry of Amiri Baraka, to name a few. She taught me to write and to speak properly. She pushed me to do my best and never, ever, ever tolerated mediocrity. Never. Mrs. Cunningham is a powerful exemplar of a great educator. She fought for school breakfast, believing hungry children couldn't learn. She helped create the local Black History Museum. Ocala has a Juanita Cunningham Day and a Juanita Cunningham Street. There's a Juanita Cunningham Scholarship for low-wealth children at a local community college. She is now, in that picture, 93 years old, still volunteering and active in her church. That's who taught me about service. She, as a matter of fact, has already planned her funeral, and I have an assigned pew. So no, I was not undereducated at a segregated school, not by a long shot. But that was then, and this is now. Things are better, right? Huh? Okay. Well, today, 65 years after the Brown versus Board of Education ruling, our schools are as segregated as ever. Just last month, a report showed a $23 billion disparity in the funding of predominantly white and predominantly Black schools. Does that make you angry? Huh? Does that make you angry? Good. It should make you angry. Malcolm X said, when people are sad, they don't do anything. They just cry over their condition. But when they get angry, they bring about a change. He was also known to say, a man who stands for nothing will fall for anything. And my grandmother frequently chopped that up and intoned him to say, if you don't stand up for something, you'll fall for anything. She might have regretted instilling that message so thoroughly in my young psyche. It was only when the full force of the federal government came down on Marion County, Florida, in 1970, that the district moved to desegregate, building a new school in the white community and busing us Black kids across town. As we approached the new Vanguard High, my junior year, we were met by white parents holding signs that read, "Niggers go home." The school refused to honor our grades. So we were excluded from clubs like the National Honor Society and other recognitions of academic achievement, which sent the message that we were not smart. The district did not hire most of the Black teachers from our previous schools, which made us feel further alienated. One exception was Miss Cunningham, and she transferred over to the new school. The kinds of things we endured included when a white boy and a Black boy got into a fight. The white boy got suspended for a day or two, and the Black boy was permanently expelled. A white teacher was accused of kicking a Black student. To make schools really tough on that school environment where young people had never been together before, the school system made football coaches from the white schools principals of the newly integrated schools. So it was little surprise when the proper and legal means to seek relief through the administration failed time and time again. We even asked the local NAACP for help in bringing attention to our plight. Maybe consider even litigation. They said no. It was at this time that I and others became activists. The circumstances of overt injustice and discrimination drove us to raise our voices and raise our fists. We staged sit-ins in the cafeteria with a record player blasting When the Revolution Comes by the Last Poets. Y'all know the record players? Oh yeah, one or two of you know.
When the revolution comes, some of us will probably catch it on TV with chicken hanging from our mouths. You'll know it's revolution because there won't be no commercial. When the revolution comes. When the revolution comes.
Thank you. So the principal there was Mr. Tough Guy. That's what I call him, Mr. Tough Guy principal. Told us we had to go to class. Shortly after, we staged a walkout. I was already known as a troublemaker because I didn't pledge allegiance to the flag. My homeroom teacher tried to force me, but she couldn't, so I spent every homeroom in the office. And just like blackball football players today, I wasn't protesting the Stars and Stripes. I was protesting the promises the flag represents for some, but not for others. Folks used to call me Angela because of my raised fist, afro, and dashikis. I was not aspiring to get on the FBI's most wanted list. But I did admire Dr. Angela Davis. Over the course of the school year, frustration turned to tension. Tension turned to anger. And anger turned to violence. Since I had a little sway with my folk, I waded into a brawl to try to break it up. And here comes Mr. Tough Guy. Y'all know this is not ending well, don't you? Screaming and cussing. Well, I've been cussing since I was 4 years old, so I was cussing back. Okay? So he screamed louder. You are now going to get arrested. And I said, for what? And he replied, because you're an animal, and I'm going to treat you like an animal. That big old white man grabbed me, and I punched him. So by that time, the police were there. We're talking early in the morning. By that time, it got rough real fast. By this time, the police were there, and I was taken to Mr. Tough Guy's office in handcuffs. And I was hard, so you know I wasn't talking, wasn't saying a word. The detective said, you don't have to say anything. I have all I need. And he pulled out a file full of pictures. Pictures of me at sit-ins, pictures of me at the walkout, pictures of me approaching the head of the NAACP, pictures of me on my grandmother's porch. I had been under surveillance. I had more in common with Angela Davis than I thought. I was taken to jail and charged with assault, inciting to riot, and interrupting the normal processes of a school day. I was 16 years old, sitting in an adult jail. My 70-something-year-old grandmother had never seen the inside of a jail in her life. The police told us that the judge had to sign off on getting me out. But the judge was on the fish creek. Y'all know what a fish creek is, don't you? That means he's going to be there a long time. So it was later on in that evening that he came and signed it, and I was able to get out of jail that evening. Needless to say, I was expelled. The district wiped me from its records and barred me from attending any public school in Florida. I tried to enroll at a private religious black school, and they told me they weren't taking any so-called white school kickouts. In the fall, the school ran into funding problems and let me in because they needed the money. In December, the school shut down. I had one semester to go to get my high school diploma. I had charges on my record, and I couldn't attend public school. I thought that that would be the end of my education. But that was then, and this is now. Things are better, right? Okay. Well, today, black children are 5 times as likely as white children to be arrested. Today, black boys are 3 times as likely to be suspended as white boys. And black girls are 6 times as likely to be suspended as white girls. Similar patterns hold across all kinds of discipline, in all kinds of schools, and in all kinds of neighborhoods across America. Does that make you angry? Does that make you angry? Good. It should make you angry. Gloria Steinem said, "The truth will set you free, but first it will piss you off." My grandmother went, hat in hand, before the school board to ask if I could finish the school year at Vanguard to get my diploma. The board agreed with a litany of conditions. I could attend night school only. I had to keep my mouth shut. Okay, she signed and said I would keep my mouth shut. Okay. Educational institution. And my grandmother had to sign that contract to keep me out of trouble. Keep in mind, my court case was still pending. My grandmother hired a black attorney from Miami. That was a major mistake. He was black, and he was from Miami. Okay. I pled nolo contendere to all charges, no contest. The old white judge bellowed at me, "If your name ever comes before me again, I will rearrest you and have you sent to reformatory school for a very long time." He gave me probation, and he placed me in a counseling program with truants and ungovernables. After the first 2 sessions, I was running that thing, okay? And so after about 3 months, the young white social worker lady in charge of us misfits recommended that I be released from probation. She indicated that she didn't understand why I was on it. She was well-intentioned, but had no cultural competency, and I took a little advantage of that, just a little bit. At the end of the semester, I was told, this story, I'll end this in a little bit. It has relevance to today. So at the end of the semester, I was told I could not graduate because I needed a half credit in American history. How original. And the only place I could get it was at a high school on the other side of town. My grandmother didn't drive, and there was no mass transit. My village, my constellation said, "You are going to get this diploma." My godparents owned a taxi franchise, so they took me to school every day and shortly after I graduated. So what happened at Vanguard? Vanguard became a school with a police presence. Sound familiar? The administration failed to address any of the concerns black students had, believing that everything would be fine with the removal of those troublemakers. Incidentally, the integration order for the Marion County School District was lifted by the federal courts after more than 30 years. The day after I graduated, I got on a plane and I went to St. Croix with my Christian grandmother, with a suitcase in my hand and a strong desire to escape racism and live with other people of color. I carried something else with me, a great big chip on my shoulder for white teachers, white principals, white detectives, and white judges. Hell, I didn't even like white shoes. One day I was walking down the street with my grandmother, and she stopped to speak to a white woman. I stayed silent and sort of just glowered at the white lady, still stinging from the injustices in Florida. And my grandmother turned to me and said, "Meet your cousin." Oh, yeah. My grandmother looked at me, and then she gave me a quick and sobering lesson on the legacy of colonization in the DNA of the descendants of enslaved people. In that moment, I realized hating white people was hating myself, and that I was losing my own humanity and falling for the age-old divide and conquer strategy to turn us against each other so we fight over crumbs, while the wealthy and powerful hoard the entire cake, to vote against our self-interests. Because this policy, just totally vote against our self-interest, because this policy might benefit others. We've been taught to hate. Today, the powers that be are still using race as a wedge because it's an effective strategy. I'm saying to you, Berea students, don't let them. I worked in St. Croix for a while, and I got pregnant. I took classes at the University of the Virgin Islands as a single mom, then moved back to the States to find a job that could take care of my young son and me. I found one at a penitentiary. I could have given up on education and retired in that career path. I recognized while the penitentiary helped lift me and mine out of poverty, it was hurting my people. I enrolled in night classes. The more I learned and observed at work, the more burdened I became by the cyclical nature of recidivism, particularly among low-wealth people and people of color. Some men I met in prison had 999-year sentences. And people were coming in every day, younger and younger. We were locking up our babies. But that was then, and this is now, right? Today, Black Americans are more likely than white Americans to be arrested. Once arrested, they are more likely to be convicted. And once convicted, they get longer prison sentences. Today, Black adults are 6 times as likely to be incarcerated than white adults. And Latinos are more than 3 times as likely. The private prison industry is booming, and with it, our mass incarceration crisis. Does that make you angry? Oh, y'all getting better at this anger thing. Come on. Good. It should make you angry. Maya Angelou said, bitterness is like cancer. It eats upon the host. It doesn't do anything to the object of its displeasure. But anger is like fire. It burns it all clean. So use that anger. You write it. You paint it. You dance it. You march it. You vote it. You do everything about it. You talk it. And you never stop talking about it. This epiphany shocked every sense in my soul, and some of the scales fell from my eyes. And I said, I can't be a part of this anymore. So I went back to school full time, earning my undergraduate degree in political science from the College of Charleston. And then my master's in public administration. I found my way to the Coastal Community Foundation, where I finally felt that I was part of the solution to the problems facing people like me. Instead of putting kids in cages, I was helping put them in college. Instead of silencing young people, I was helping them find their authentic voices. I could hear my grandmother's voice, too, extolling the importance of education and service, and I could feel the warmth of her approval. I began work on my PhD at the University of South Carolina. Oh, began, didn't finish. But in my first semester of coursework, Mary Reynolds Babcock Foundation called my name, and the rest, as they say, is history. In the 20 years since, I've had the privilege of traveling the South, meeting extraordinary people with the courage to defy incredible odds to improve each other's lives. They are Black and white and Latinx and Asian and Native. They are women and men and gender nonconforming. They are young and old, urban and rural, haves and have-nots. We become friends, mentors, confidants, brothers and sisters. They help me understand the importance of giving back, of teaching the next generation, of volunteering my time, and serving on boards. They are brilliant, flickering points in my night sky, guiding my ship. My point is that I'm not special. There are lots of folk like me who stood up against injustice with raised fists and love in their hearts. There are also a lot of folk who didn't raise their fists, who changed the world just through their presence. An example is my husband, Jacob Washington, who in 1949 was in the second class that integrated the United States Air Force after President Truman's order the previous year. But there was still a lot of de facto segregation, and some of the things he experienced were too painful for him to talk about. He said during basic training in Texas, we were the buffer between the white boys and the rattlesnakes. Nevertheless, Wash served 25 years and retired as a master sergeant, having broken the color barrier and moved the armed forces forward in his own quiet and dignified way. Someone always has to be first, to blaze a trail with his mere presence. As a Black man, he also had to be excellent. He knew no other way. Wash and I were married for 35 years until he took his place among the stars 2 years ago. It takes all kinds. Some people achieve change by moving within the system. Others march around the system with bullhorns. That's how Joshua fit the battle of Jericho and the walls came tumbling down. We're going to need a little something more than a trumpet. But Wash played the inside game, and I played the outside game. They are equally important. Decide how you want to influence the system that are not serving all of us equally. Decide how you want to carry the work forward, because one way or another, we know that it still has to be done. These change makers, the righteous fist raisers and the rowdy hell raisers and the noble trailblazers, they're not perfect people. They're not anointed from on high. They're made of the same cosmic debris as you and me. and they've stayed angry. Theologian Lyman Abbott said, "Do not teach your children never to be angry. Teach them how to be angry." The anger in my belly drives me to do this work, to listen to people, to fight for equity. It doesn't drive hate. It doesn't tell me someone has to have less so I can have more. It pushes me to be introspective about who I am and how I show up, and to take in the world in a different way. I pay homage to my anger. And this particular tea that I had, this fever that I have, I don't take any tea or Tylenol for it, okay? I hold my anger. In a few months, I'll retire to St. Croix. I'll have plenty of time to reflect on my life from my childhood in the segregated South through tragedy and injustice, the criminal justice system, and redemption to this very moment, speaking to a room full of future leaders, and I hope future hell raisers. And I'll probably think of some brilliant words of advice I should have imparted today. In the meantime, here's what the universe has taught me. Be who you are authentically, not anybody's prescription or perception. I'm fortunate to be in a place where I'm honored for who I am. And I am grateful to the Mary Rose Babcock Foundation for allowing me to bring that outside game inside, to apply my education experience, passion, love, and yes, even anger to the movement for a more equitable South. Sorry, I know I'm committing a faux pas right now, but I'm going to talk about myself in the third person for just a second, if you will allow me. So who is the authentic Gladys Krieger Washington? She is unapologetically black. She is a woman phenomenally. She is a daughter of the South and a granddaughter of the islands, with all the traditions and rhythms and flavors and complexities that combination elicits. She's a mother who's raised black boys into black men in America. Overflowing with chest-bursting pride for all they accomplish and heart-wrenching fear for what may befall them. She is a grandmother, spoiling babies and then giving their little rotten butts back to their mamas and daddies. That's what we do. She is an advocate for justice and will continue to be until she draws her last breath, fist in the air. I can be all those things in this place. Find a place that honors your authentic self. Find peace and happiness in education, in employment, and in a life that feeds your soul. There are few things I've learned in my not yet completed life journey that I would like to share with you in the few moments I have left. Always present your best self to the world. If you must wear white shoes, make sure they're polished. Never underestimate the value of education. It is your passport to a better life, and the one thing that nobody can ever take away from you. Always speak truth to power, believing deeply in what you say and believe, and fighting every day to have that heard. It may not be popular. It means taking a risk. It means standing up for something lest you fall for anything. Always believe you can make a difference. Raise your voice against injustice and inequity. It is a revolutionary act. Never become complacent. Complacency is the enemy of progress. Be an activist. Angela Davis said the importance of doing activist work is precisely because it allows you to give back and to consider yourself not as a single individual who may have achieved whatever, but to be a part of an ongoing historical movement. I believe we are on the cusp of an historical moment and movement. Don't succumb to the politics of division. I also believe that if we join together, we can kick the shit out of all the forms of oppression, inequity, and discrimination. I think I've been pretty restrained. I've been cussing since I was 4. Anyway, but harness your righteous anger and wield it as a weapon for good and lead with your heart as well as your mind. Practice and learn to listen to that still small voice deep inside your soul that will always guide you to do the right thing with honor and in truth. When you hit setbacks, and you will, pick yourself up, take the lesson, and keep moving forward. When you stumble, seek the guidance of your ancestors, your village, your family, biological and chosen, and accept the redemption only they can offer. And when you're lost, look to the stars. The light will always defeat the dark and illuminate your path. I thank you so very much.
Hello. Hi, this is Thomas Ahrens, Director of Communications. Could I please ask you to stay focused and out of respect for our speaker as well as everyone else in the room. And second, please keep your questions very brief so everyone gets a chance. Okay. Thank you very much.
Hello? Is this on? Okay.
Yes, it is.
Okay. My name is Lee Myers. I'm a junior philosophy major here. And so I liked your presentation. Thank you for coming. It was really beautiful. So it may surprise you to know that Berea College also engages in a form of segregation, particularly to undocumented students, and then that constitutes about 11 million people living in this country right now. So Berea College is a college that's very proud of its activist history and it markets itself a lot to that. So I'm asking, is it hypocritical for Berea College to market itself as an institution that stands for social justice and equality while simultaneously denying or not even trying to admit fully undocumented students who don't qualify for deferred action and childhood arrival? I'm sorry?
I couldn't hear him that good. This side doesn't work as well as this side. So I had to come over here and ask a question. Ask him the question. And it was about Berea being a social justice institution. Says it's a social justice institution, right?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And it does not accept undocumented students who do not qualify for DACA or deferred action for childhood and arrival.
And so people are not qualified for what?
So deferred action for childhood arrival is an executive order on the
DACA.
yeah.
And
So it doesn't accept undocumented students who do not qualify for that at all.
okay. And so, what do you want them to do?
Obviously,
You're going to answer your own question.
yeah. Well,
Answer your own question.
I and many other people here, so we want this college to start accepting those students indefinitely, regardless of citizenship status, regardless of legal status altogether.
Mm-hmm. Tell them.
We've been telling them for 2 years.
You've been telling them for 2 years?
Yes.
What do you think you need to do? Talk to your fellow students. What do you think y'all need to do?
Well, there's an organization on feet. There's an organization. There's an organization on campus called Fighting for Equal Education. Coming Out of the Shadows week is next week. It's where we spotlight a lot of the immigration issues. If you are interested, you should definitely come out and show this administration that you want this college to accept undocumented students, regardless of their citizenship status.
Show up. Show up and show out. And if you really want that, and you have to help people with pathways sometimes. Disruption of the system is a really good thing if you got a plan behind it. You know what I'm saying? What's the plan? And is it one that can be accomplished in the confines of an educational institution? I don't know. Y'all have to figure that out together.
Well, this college has accepted free undocumented students accidentally who did not have DACA before, so it can be done.
Okay. All right. Talk to them. Talk to them. Thank you for bringing that up. It matters.
Hi.
Yes, baby.
Hey, my name is Maya. I'm a junior health studies major. So you mentioned, okay, so look, I'm not about to have no filter. So my question is in regards to the word nigga. So you mentioned that when you pulled up to the high school that there were some parents who had the words nigga go home. My question is, I'm sorry, I had to write it out because I'll forget. So when All Lives Matter came about, it had nothing to do with white lives, equality, or police brutality. It was a response to Black Lives Matter because apparently the slogan left out white people, and they hate being left out of anything. So my question is, some white people will argue that if black people can say nigga, then white people can. And listen, let me tell y'all, okay? And if white people can't use it, then that's the definition of racism. Some will also argue that black people can't use the word nigga in our music, sell it to white people, and then get mad when Alabama sorority girls use it, Victoria's Secret models sing it in Cardi B songs, or college sports teams and student athletes use it to other students on campus. So therefore, I would like to know, what's your stand on this?
I have to give Berea College students credit. Y'all have about 10 questions in one. And so I'm grateful to you. So I'm going to try and answer that the best way I know how. So number one, I said nigga. Because, number one, that was directed at me. Right? See, what people do these days is they throw the rock and hide their hand. In the confines of hip-hop and rap music and all of that. We are never, ever going to stop the name calling. Never, never, never going to stop the name calling. But I prefer to be black all day, every day, and all that entails. We just have to do better. We have to do better. At the end of the day, whose behavior can you control? Huh? Who? All right. We need to control on our own behavior and then be models about how we all work together in different ways. And, one of the challenges, you can tell I'm old based on what I'm about to say. Social media is a pain in the butt. I'm sorry, Susanna Hagner, my trusted communications officer, but it is. It allows us instantaneous access to all kinds of bad acts. Now, people who are not well-intentioned, right? And so what we have to do is show up, show out, and show how we can be better as people working together, because we can't control the actions of other folk or the words or anything else. Again, I can use that word. I own that word. A friend of mine said that whenever he says it, it makes his teeth white. I own it, okay? Because it was directed at me. And so I'll take it that way and share it with you all as a lesson of how people act badly. And unless we start working together, as I said, a lot of work still needs to be done. Let's do it, and let's don't pay any attention to ignorance. Okay?
Thank you.
Hi, Miss Washington.
Hey, baby.
I'm Dejan. And my question is, oftentimes as Black women, we're told to not show our emotions and to especially not show our anger. And that is what society is telling us. But, you know, whenever we're led by our hearts and our souls and we see the injustices of the world, we're angry. So I'm asking, how is it that we can have that anger and show it the way that we need to show it, and how we're led to show it in this society that tells us that we shouldn't be angry?
So, I got locked up when I was 16 years old. I'll give you an example. Yes. I got locked up when I was 16 years old. I'm 64 now, and I've been angry since I've been 16. All right, so sometimes I've been accused of being an angry Black woman, you know, because that's the thing we carry as Black women. I let folk call me that. Now, it's racist. You better not call me that at my job. But what I think is that we hold that anger and we show it the way we need to show it. We think about it. See, the thing about anger is you got to manage it in a way that it doesn't harm you. And that's what I've learned to do. To use it as a way to drive me to do good work, to hear things that I don't want to hear things, ugly things from people that hurt my soul. But the anger drives me to create opportunities and situations for that to change. So I'm not saying you let go of it. You let go of it if you finna punch somebody every day. That's when you let go. But otherwise, you use it as a tool to help create change. And that's about how you serve the world, serve your people, serve your community, serve the South in this nation. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dustin Cooper, and your grandma told you whatever you do, keep focused on your education so you don't have to work as a maid like she did. Well, my grandparents told me to focus on my education so I didn't have to break my back doing manual labor like they did. And I grew up in rural Appalachia. We face discrimination as well. In education, we have poorly funded schools. We often get called the troublemakers of the school and get thrown in prison whenever we shouldn't be. Standing here today, we might have different skin colors, but I believe we have a lot in common. Would you agree that rural Appalachians and African Americans have a lot in common?
I absolutely do. Absolutely. And from that is a budding coalition, isn't it? Yes, it is. Yes. It's about unity. And it's about, since we do have some things in common, right? Then you all create the opportunity for y'all to work together. Somebody raise a fist, somebody talk nice and sweet, but it's about strategy. It's coalition building and strategy, because Appalachian white folk and Black folks don't need to be throwing rocks at one another. That makes no sense. You're in the same circumstance, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So build coalitions. That's how you do that.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for coming. My name is Edgy. I'm a nursing major. And the question that I want to ask is, because you talk about like being angry and like using that anger to change the world. And recently we have seen that like anger has led to an aggression of like killing people or violence. How can you use that anger? How can you use that anger to make a change without being violent or being aggressive?
Well, because, you know, the thing about that anger that was in me and still is that you can't see it. When you look at me, can you tell I'm angry? Maybe a grimace every once in a while, huh? But for the most part, you can't tell because I use it as a weapon, right? So it doesn't show on the outside. What I'm saying is manage it in a way that it doesn't harm you and it doesn't harm your agenda for good in the world. Because it's okay to have it. We don't have to be mad from people being angry. The most ambitious justice work has been from people being angry. Somebody mentioned it earlier. Black Lives Matter folk. They were pissed, right? Some of them showed it, some of them did not. The people who are creating a policy agenda for Black Lives Matter now still have that anger, but they're pulling out a policy agenda for black people in this country. So channel the anger for good. That's all I can tell you, baby. Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
My name is Chris Coleman, and I'm a first-year religion and communication major here. I want to thank you first for coming and sharing with that. And my question is, and it might seem to be a little materialistic and sometimes it seems common sense, but as someone who has grown up into 7 different schools and has noticed that they're one of the youngest people in the school and in their class, I've seen that it's hard to get out and to be able to let your voice be known. And I think that as the younger generation, and we're going to be growing up, we're going to become the next generation's advice people. And so with people who are advocates of different communities and wanting you to have your individuality within a community, how could people who feel like they don't have a voice because of their age and are not able to get out there as much as it seems as adults can get out there and to be able to share that voice to be in a community?
So what did I just say gets on my nerves? Social media. Yeah, yes. But y'all live in it. And again, we have to raise the voices of the people most impacted by what we want to change. So the people most impacted in that situation are young people. They can get active now. There is a movement in this country in several public schools. They're black public schools that is against the police and the discipline in schools, in public high schools, in middle schools. They're being over-policed. Those young people are leading those charges. So I think they can lead those charges, but you have to be organized in a different sort of way. And see, we are used to organizing people face-to-face, coming up, shaking your hand, tell me what your interests are, what do you care about the most, that kind of thing. You can do that by using tools that these young people use. But their voice is as important or more important than anybody else in the school. Right? Try it. It might work. Oh, I got one over here and then one over here. That'd be it, right? How we running on time?
Hi.
Hey.
My name is Amy. I'm an English and education major, and I'm very tall. Okay. So one of the things that stood out to me was the inequalities that you talked about in the high school that you went to. I'm currently in an education class where I'm reading a book by Jonathan Kozol, Savage Inequalities, where it talks about schools that are so dramatically segregated, and then right across the river, right across the road are schools that are predominantly white, and these children are getting a way better education than the predominantly black schools. So my question is, what is the solution to that you see? What can we do to erase those inequalities?
Excellent question. And I'm not an educator, but I have a sense of what might be possible. One is that folks who are teaching children in schools today need to have some cultural competence. In Title I schools, where those are the schools that that are low-wealth schools, whether they're white or black, mostly black in this country, they get first-year teachers who've never, ever been engaged with another race ever to do anything, and they put them in those schools. Some of those children are very poor. They have no cultural competency around how to deal with the parents of those children. They think the parents don't care, but they're at a job at a McDonald's somewhere that doesn't let them get off from work to go to a school. So we need culturally competent teachers. We need more black teachers. Because as I said earlier, and we know this to be a fact, is that once integration happened in the South, that the majority of our teachers were not hired as teachers in new schools. We lost probably, if I'm not mistaken, Chad, is it 30%? Something like that of our teachers. So we need more black teachers in black schools. We need more Latinx teachers in schools. We need people who other folk can look up to, you know, because if you don't, you send the signal to children that they're not worth much. Nobody in here understands who I am, and they don't care about me. And folks in communities, parents, other interested people got to stand up, and their voice has to be heard at that school board to say, you give that school as much money as you give that one, because I pay taxes too. And that's what civic engagement is. So that's what civic engagement is. It requires both changes in behaviors and changes in policy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So my name is Jose Gonzalez. I'm a junior here. I'm an HHP major. Shut up. Everybody be quiet. So my question is what's your opinion on those who have a minority status and use that status to slander other people's name?
Can you give
So
me
like pretty much saying like what an instance that's going on. There's a person that has been like kind of, I wouldn't say like, she was like, this person is exaggerating like the situation that's going on.
Lying?
Yes, pretty much.
Okay.
She's exaggerating.
Call it a
So
lie.
pretty much like, and it's putting a bad reputation on another person's name. And it's like, I've seen both sides of this story. And I can tell you right now that one side is not being seen completely, and is being overseen because of the other side.
Sister. Not in front of this mic. Not in front of this mic. Y'all need to go over there. And that needs a conversation. A face-to-face conversation, because this mic is not the answer. Y'all adults, come on over here, sister. And if something has to be mediated, it has to be mediated if you care about this.
I'm just wanting your opinion on that. Because
I don't know.
I
don't know. I don't know. That needs to be handled by something else, somebody else. Not my call.
Well, okay. Everyone, this ends our convocation. Please give it up for Ms. Washington.